All right, guys. Welcome to the Google Webmaster English and Hindi podcast hangout. So I'm Ashish, and this is Syed. We'll be joining you today, and hopefully we'll have a lot of great questions. And we already have quite a few questions from the Q&A app. Many people have already added their questions. So if you have any live questions, feel free to ask them. Uh, let's get started.
Yep, I think so.
All right. By the way, do you guys, any of you guys have any live questions? See? Guys? Okay, it looks like people are experiencing some connection issues.
Yeah, they're dropping off chat messages.
All right, Raj, go ahead.
So if you don't have a microphone, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat box.
Actually, it's better if you add your questions to the Q&A app because people watching the Hangout can also see the question, and like when we answer the question, we'll select your question. So later you can just like click that question, and you'll be taken to that point of the video.
Hey guys.
Hey guys. Hello. Ramesh. Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Alright, I think we'll just start and take some questions from the app, and then we'll take a few questions live.
Yes. So see a lot of questions around algorithmic updates actually today. I don't know what happened. So the first question says, I suspect Penguin algorithm issue on our site. There are no unnatural links now. Already removed few unnatural links. It's dropping since 2013 October. Early site in top position. Okay. So very frankly, I have no idea why your site is not doing well in the search results because, unless we like deep dive, take a look at it, we may not be in a position to comment. And I think it's not a very straightforward issue for anybody to like just come to a conclusion looking at your site or anything like that. So I think it may have nothing to do with any of the algorithmic updates. That may also be possible. So I think what you can do is go back and check your website against Google's quality guidelines and see how you're doing against those. And then maybe you will be able to find something that you could fix.
So we actually have quite a few questions around ranking and algorithmic updates. So we'll just take a couple of more of those and then go for the live ones.
Yep.
Dave asks if we change domain name and 301 redirects all internal pages to the relevant pages and 301 from old domain to the new domain, would we keep our rank and SERP position?
Yeah, so I think if you're correctly 301ing all your URLs to the new URLs, I think that is a very good hint for Google that, okay, the resource is the same, the URL is changing, and plus if you're like also providing details about that in the Webmaster Tools account, I think I would not suspect anything bad would happen with your rankings. Yeah, but one thing is like a lot of people do a lot of mistakes while implementing these things, like 301 redirects, etc., especially when moving their site. Sometimes what happens is these redirects are not set properly, and some of the pages may start redirecting to, say, for example, home page, right? Some of the deeper pages from the old website start redirecting to the home page of the new website. If these kind of problems are happening, then yes, there may be some issues that may affect your visibility in the search results. But otherwise, if you're like taking care that you're implementing this correctly, I don't see any problems.
There may be a few fluctuations, but overall, like as long as you implement it correctly, they shouldn't. Neeraj Mudani asks, it was in the air that Google launched the new algorithmic updates recently, but no formal call has been given. It's been a year since Penguin came in, so can we expect anything soon now? So first things first, we pretty much reiterate always that we have tons of updates, a lot of updates that go around the year. So we do announce major updates. So if a certain update is affecting a huge number of queries, we generally do take the time and announce them. But uh, either previously Matt Cutts used to announce them on his Twitter channel. Now John Mueller has will be sometimes announcing them from his Google Plus account. But in general, if there's anything major, we will announce. So like you can take a. But I like as long as your site is has relevant content and like it's not too stale or doesn't have any old information or anything like that, it should be fine. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we have been saying this all the time everywhere. I think if you can, instead of trying to chase the algorithmic updates that you're doing and focus on your users and try to provide the value that you can, I think you are kind of an investment. Of course, there are some things like you will require to do in order to make sure, like, say, for example, search results appear better in your pages appear better in the search results, and to increase in the efficiency of, for example, how crossover frauds and things like that. Other than that, that stuff, taking care of that, I think there is nothing for you to worry about. All the algorithm changes that we
Asks, how do you carry no follow only or some sort of redirection should be used? Affiliate links, frankly, if affiliate links, if they are relevant, it's not an issue. So what you're doing is you're sort of being an affiliate for a certain product and just linking to them. And when someone gets buy that, that's pretty relevant. But the problem with affiliates is when they don't add any value apart from the original product. So say if Amazon is selling a camera, and if you are simply listing that camera as an Amazon affiliate, there's no value to a user between the Amazon's page and your page, right? So there's no reason why Google should rank your page. So, but the link by itself, it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and in most cases, it's linking to the correct product, so it's pretty relevant. So the link itself is fine. You should concentrate with regards to affiliate content. You should make sure your site provides value as an affiliate site. Um, if you guys have any live questions, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Anyone?
Hello? Hello?
Just do post your question. We just skip this one, but like, do post your question.
Hello?
All right. Naveen Segal asks, we are experiencing fluctuations in ranks for the past 1 month. Has there been some new update? So this was answered already. So if there is any major update, we will announce it. Otherwise, like just make sure your content is good and everything.
I think fluctuations can happen for many reasons. Right?
Hello?
It may not be just from Google's side, the algorithmic updates and things like that. It could be like some changes in your website or some changes in the competing pages as well, right? So, I mean, there are so many possibilities that can actually fluctuate the rankings. I think it is very common to see rank fluctuating for websites.
Hello?
Okay, Amit asks, why is that some of us are not invited to learn with Google event in spite of being a Google partner? Okay, so first of all, I think being a Google partner doesn't play any role in anything we do with search, right? So basically, do not consider partners or any kind of relationship with Google when it comes to search, right? So be it inviting you to events or anything else. So that is kind of like irrelevant here because we want to be fair with everyone, either you're irrespective of you're a partner or not. So that is kind of irrelevant. However, why were you not invited? That's an interesting question. So there were like a lot of signups, hundreds of people actually signed up, but we had like a small capacity. So of course we could not invite like thousands of people, so we had to like randomly pick people from the list. And yeah, so some people got a chance, some people didn't get a chance, but hopefully I think through mediums like this Hangout and the Webmaster community that we have launched specifically for India Webmasters, we will have an opportunity on a continual basis to interact with each other. So I think that's a good place for us to get in touch. Okay, Suraj asks, when you take manual action any website, how do you ensure it's not a victim of a negative SEO? Okay, I think a lot has been said in the past as well regarding negative SEO. Google algorithms are like pretty smart in detecting the unusual backlink patterns, I would say. Right, so if there is any obvious negative SEO impact, then Google will not allow that to affect any of the sites, because otherwise it will be like pretty easy for anybody to like pull down any website from Google search, right? So Google has worked a lot from this perspective, and I think our algorithms are right now pretty smart. On the other hand, to give some control to our users, we have also launched the disavow tool. So if at all you suspect some links that are pointing to your website which may not be like good quality, or you suspect some kind of negative SEO happening, so to do something from your side, you can use this disavow tool and disavow all those links. So once you disavow those links, they are just not counted for anything for your website.
So Shankar asks, the question is regarding handling of subdomains in Webmaster Tools. We want to check all Webmaster data for our blog. Should we need to add the subdomain as a different property in Webmaster Tools, or is there any other way to get it done? Alright, so frankly, even between a www.example.com and like just example.com, we consider that the www as different subdomain. So we'd like you to generally, like if you have different subdomains and you want more information about those subdomains, we'd really like you to just verify those subdomains. And you don't actually need to always, add a HTML file or add analytics code or meta tags. You can simply use DNS verification to verify all your subdomains. It's a pretty easy method. You can find like the instructions in our help center, and it's pretty straightforward. So I'd say like just verify the subdomain. You'll get more granular and better information for that particular subdomain in Webmaster Tools. Alright, Gopal asks, what is the best way to stop crawling the sites which are on the development server? Alright, you can always block using robots.txt whichever pages or parts of the site that you don't want to be crawled. So don't use noindex, because noindex, if you use a meta tag noindex, we'll still crawl the site but won't index it. But if you use robots.txt, we won't even crawl it, so you'll save a lot of bandwidth there.
Yep, I think, and also don't link those pages from your production server, probably. So Google doesn't even know about the existence of those pages. Okay, next question. Mahesh Kumar asks, how to submit subdomain to the Google Webmaster data highlighters section? Suppose my domain is example.com and subdomain is... Okay, so to use the data highlighter, you will have to add and verify your website. As Ashish just mentioned, you will even have to verify your subdomains, add them separately and verify them. Once you do that, you will be able to use the data highlighter tool.
Right, interrupting. Anyone with any live questions? Anyone? Sojan, Sandeep?
Okay, I think people are continuing to type questions.
Alright, guys, welcome to the Google Webmaster. We already took this penguin question, so I'm Ashish, and first, Vaibhav asks, Do mobile sites ranking differ on smartphone and feature phones? If yes, then how do we understand position in different platform? Because Webmaster doesn't really give.
Live questions, feel free to.
All right, first, yes, between smartphones and feature phones, there is a different ranking because feature phones are not HTML. The pages are completely different, so we have to treat them differently. And how we do not, as far as I remember, we don't give much information for feature phones on Webmaster Tools. Not sure why it's that.
Yeah, I think we just have a filter for web and mobile, and we do not have a separate filter for feature phones as of now. Yeah, you know.
But yeah, for smartphones though, you can get a lot of information regarding like the URLs for if there are any faulty redirects or if you add your app, index your app to your mobile site, you'll get a lot of information regarding that. And like any mistakes that you make, anything, all of that information will be in Webmaster. But yeah, I don't think we have any information currently about feature phone search Webmaster Tools. But yes, the ranking does differ between smartphone and feature phones. Pavle asks, can changing the add-on domain to primary domain boost the rankings? How Google looks at add-on domains? Do they have a chance to rank?
Okay, I think talking about add-on domains or independent domains, I think first of all, Google may not even have access to that information, right? Whether the domain is an add-on domain or a separate domain. So, I mean, if at all you're sharing an IP address, that may be only a hint, and IP address can be shared between independent websites hosted on the same server as well. So that doesn't actually tell if it is an add-on domain or not. And I think there is nothing that Google would take into consideration, if at all, even if it is an add-on domain, right? Add-on domain is just a way for you or webmasters to like organize the backend structure of their website. So if it is easy for you to manage your domains like that, feel free to do that. I think there is no impact whatsoever of either having an add-on domain or an independent domain in Google search rankings.
Shankar asks, my other question is regarding Gopal's question. I had a website on development say it's restricted by robots.txt even though it was indexed by Google. Alright, I believe your question is, I blocked your development site using robots, but it was indexed by Google. The first thing, robots just blocks our crawlers from accessing your site. If your site was already indexed, like if you had already crawled, that page will stay in our index for some time. And like when we again come and try and crawl those particular pages, we'll see that like we have a robots blocking us. So then the cache will probably go away, but the link will stay for a while. And if that link to your development site is being linked from other pages on your site, and Google can find those links, then we may not it may not rank well because there's no content for us to see, but we'll probably still have those links in our index. I hope that makes sense. We have some questions in the chat. Okay, not really. So, so any live questions, guys?
Hello.
Okay, Sandeep asks, we've recently changed CMS of one of our sites which has more than 20,000 articles. The entire URL structure has been changed, but our rankings have dropped massively over the last 20 days. Over 95% of the traffic has been lost. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, when URLs are changed entirely, that may be a problem because Google may see new URLs as new resources. So I think what you should do is 301 old URLs to the, new URLs, right? So probably you can set up your server to like redirect all the old URLs to the respective new URLs. and that will make Googlebot understand that both the URLs are actually the same source, and then probably you may improve your rankings.
Also, like once you do that, it's also helpful to verify both domains in Webmaster Tools and use the changing address feature to do this. It's more for sort of getting your data in Webmaster Tools and those
Actually, it's book till 5.
well, is it important to have particular elements on web page to add schema for it? Can we add schema which is not in content, like address or phone?
Okay, so one thing to remember is rich snippets, the data that we use for rich snippets, that is supposed to represent the main content on a page, right? Because what we are reflecting on search results page is the primary content of the page. So when users are seeing some data, some rich snippets about a website on the search results page, they expect to see the same data when they click through as well, right? So it has to represent the main content. And of course, things like address and phone numbers, of course, if you have those things on your contact page, say, for example, on contact page, these things would be the primary content of the contact page. So that is the right place for you to add schema for these kind of things. Yeah. And would you need any specific elements if you're talking about HTML elements? Then I don't think so. If you have your content in divisions, then you can add schema item scope to the divisions, and that should do.
We have a few questions from Sojan. As per my knowledge, Google data for knowledge panel from Google Plus and Wikipedia. What are the other sources? Like some of the other sources, like for sports, I think we do use Freebase a lot, and
yeah, so I mean, we are basically trying to gather as much information as possible from the World Wide Web. So sometimes you may see, like, if you have typed in a, say, for example, a commercial query looking for an organization or something, say, for example, Pizza Hut, then you would also see some websites coming up, like maybe, for example, Just Dial, which has reviews for Pizza Hut. So there are a lot of different resources actually where we are trying to pull this data. So we are not restricting ourselves to like only few resources, but there are a lot of resources that we are considering.
Ramesh, like, can you unmute yourself? Yeah. Just.
Can you hear me? Hello? Ashish, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, yes. Sorry.
Ashish, like,
I can hear you guys, but who's speaking, Rocky or?
Yes, Rocky here.
All right, Rocky, go ahead.
I hope you guys remember me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you like one thing, like as we discussed long back, like regarding the penalty manual action what we have faced. Okay, so now basically we have uploaded a disavow tool, like that file in disavow tools, but like it's still not taken any effect yet. So what has to be done? I think it's almost been a month we uploaded a file on disavow tools, and like even I wanted to know like what is it like when we received the penalty was like it was a site-wide penalty. It was not a partial match. Like what we have to kind of thin content penalties. One is a partial match and the other one is a site-wide match penalty. So basically, like we have removed loads of contents, but like still the traffic is not back. I think it's almost been a year as of now. In month of October, we're going to finish off like it will be a 1 year completely. So like till there is, I could say like there is not even a single percent, hardly 5% gain in the traffic, not more than that. So what, when, where to work, like and it's been almost been 3 years, like we'll be in a penalty. So what suggestions or what we can do, like to get our rankings back?
Right, Rocky. First of all, I think regarding the disavow tool, once we have submitted, it will take some time for us to process that and process your disavow file and that to come in effect. And other thing to remember is both regarding your backlinks that you have disavowed and also regarding the content that you're saying you have removed a lot of content from your website, right? That was not of great quality. So one thing to remember is sometimes what may happen is you have, say, for example, in organic links pointing to your websites, because of which Google was wrongly ranking your website for some queries, say, for example, right? Now, when you don't have those backlinks, it is expected that you will lose some of your ranking as well, right? Some of your search traffic as well. Also, similarly with the content, as you have mentioned, there were a lot of pages maybe which were ranking for some niche queries and things like that. And if you don't have those pages anymore, that search traffic may also be lost. So the point here is basically when you get a manual action, right? So it's a drastic impact on your search traffic, meaning you will be impacted very drastically, right? However, when you try to recover from it, you fix things. You cannot expect your entire traffic to be back, right? Because you are making a lot of changes in your website. You're losing a lot of content. You're losing a lot of backlinks and things like that. So I think what you can expect is a gradual comeback, right? And I think you will have to also work towards it. Basically, now that after manual action has been revoked, right, because of the effort you have put in, I think the search traffic you would be getting, the ranking you would be getting, would be the actual ranking your pages would deserve, right, for the queries, right. So that is where you were supposed to be, but because of some things that went wrong and some violations, there were some fluctuations in your ranking and traffic and things like that. But that is now has come to a normalized position, basically where they should be. And from there on, I think you can pick up. So probably, I mean, the only thing I can suggest is, I remember, I think you had a forum or something where you basically write reviews about products and things. Do I remember
Yes,
correctly?
absolutely correct.
Right, absolutely. And we had gone through some of the content, right, and it was of not great quality. And back then, I remember we had discussed some things about it, how to fix that. So I think what you have done is a good thing, that you have actually removed all the low quality content. Now I think it will take some time for you to, of course, build good quality content and also gain some credibility to that content, right? So that you start ranking well again. So I think the only thing I can say is, like, this will require some time. It is not going to happen overnight.
Again, I got one question.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like, this is something like, it's not really personal, but like, for an example, like as I said, like, there were 6 million unique visitors to our website, like, in a month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't deny the fact that, okay, we received a manual penalty, but like, 95% of the traffic in the drop in the traffic, like, and now you guys coming and telling me that, okay, we never had a good articles, or like, we never, okay, somehow I get agreed to it, but that was a mistake from Google's end. It was not from our end. Okay, so basically, like, 90 out of 6 million, like, I have nearing 0.5 million visitors as of now, because I lost 95% traffic.
Right.
So basically, it was a problem from Google's end. If
Right.
So like,
Yes.
here I'm asking, like, see, basically when you guys are sitting with us, okay, so here more of a, like, a one-on-one session, like, where you guys are going to help us, like, we are facing some problems related to Google or search or anything else. So here till the day I'm not getting any solutions, because I'm almost attending each and every hangouts of Google, like, trying to connect loads of people. Till the day I haven't received any single solutions to, like, there is no gain in my traffic, and neither in, like, I'm getting any solutions to my problems. I
Right,
hope
Rocky.
you understand.
Yes, yes, I completely understand your
I could
situation.
see that, like, a smile on your face, like, but you can understand my problem, but I'm not getting any solutions till the day.
Yes, Rocky, we totally understand your situation, and we also sympathize for what you're going through, right? And thank you very much for joining all our hangouts and asking really nice questions, and also promoting this and getting this to others. Really, thank you so much. However, I think talking about the solution, as I said, very frankly, if I were in your position, right, I would be in the same situation, right? I wouldn't be able to get this website back like to rank at #1 position and gain back the 600 million whatever traffic you had.
6 million.
Right? Yeah, 6
600
million.
I would have been Facebook.
Yeah, sorry, 6 million. Right. So as I said, I think the problem here is the expectations we have. Right. So I think we need to understand the situation correctly and set the right expectations. I think that is the primary problem here. So if you can set right expectations.
इंटरनेट गया मेरा hang हो गया
content from your website, right? That may have brought some trust to the good quality content that you have on your web pages, but that doesn't mean you're going to like get the same leverage as you would with all that content you had, right? Which was maybe ranking for some niche queries and things like that. And as I said, you are like absolutely right. Google search is like not perfect. We are not saying it is perfect and it never makes any mistakes in ranking and things like that. Mistakes in ranking do happen. Some of the algorithmic changes may like be not good for some good websites, but I think recognize that, identify and quickly take action. That is the reason why we have like more than 600 or 800 updates every year. Like what do you think these updates are? Basically, we are trying to continually improve everything we are doing. So once we do something, we may see, okay, there are some false positives, say for example, and that is usually very small percentage because we do regressive testing and everything before we launch anything, any updates to our algorithms. And even when we see those kind of things, we immediately jump onto fixing those things, right? So when you see these kind of fluctuations, I mean, if you have a good website and it is it has like dropped in ranking due to some algorithmic update, then I think it should come back in the search results very quickly because we try to fix those issues. However, I think a lot of what I said is not applicable to websites like that you have, because you clearly had a lot of content which was like, we clearly discussed the other day, right? And I think you had also posted in the forum, and people were also of the same opinion that, okay, you really need to work on the content you had. So I think, yes, so a lot of things I'm saying is actually not applicable to websites where the content itself is like needs improvement. And I think if you can focus on that, and of course, you see, you had, I remember like thousands of pages, right? And it will take some time for you to build that back up. So I think we will have to be a little bit patient here, and then work towards it. I really hope your website will like start gaining more and more visitors because of
one more question is that, okay, what is the difference between the partial match and a site-wide match?
Of the manual actions?
Yeah.
A site-wide match basically means for a domain, all the pages of that domain are affected by the manual action. All the pages of that domain are affected.
All the pages?
Yes. And partial match basically means only some pages.
Certain specific pages of the website, right?
Yeah. So it's basically like if you if site-wide all the pages are affected, but partial matches, it basically means only some pages are affected. Say if you have maybe some backlinks to your pages that are like unnatural or like violate Google's guidelines, the pages which are receiving that page rank use may not be affected because of those backlinks.
As of now, my page rank is also affected. It's 0 as of now.
Page rank, I think, like you'll probably see that via the page rank toolbar, and I don't think we've updated that since December 2013. So I'd rather not focus on that number. So like just don't focus on the page rank number. Just look at rather look at the data you get in Webmaster Tools via search queries and impressions.
Okay. Are we planning for any major updates for Panda and Penguin in this coming months?
Like I said, like regarding many other questions, so if we have any update, we will be announcing it. If there's any major update that affects a lot of queries,
we receive an update after the update has been processed.
Sorry?
We receive a a message once the update is done. We don't receive it before it. Like, for an example, you're going to run an update, like, after 12 hours. So we receive a message like, now. That
See,
you're going to do
we
update.
actually make a lot of updates, like Syed said, over the years. So we don't really like speak about each and every update. But if there's a major update that's affecting a lot of queries, we do speak about it. I mean, even in the many minimal updates that we do, like your site could be, affected as part of that. But like I said, only if there's some major update that affects a huge number of queries, we generally announce it.
Mhm. Can you
Hello?
manually remove my Discord tools? Like, can you manually check my Discord tools file?
Sorry.
The file which I have uploaded, because I really want to see an effect, like, it's being a month. So if you guys can,
Okay, so basically he wants us to check his disavow file manually. I think, yeah, even if we are able to check your
you cannot process
file
it.
manually, even if you like send it across on an email or whatever, we won't be able to do anything about it because the process is automated, right? This is an algorithmic process, so there is nothing manually we can do about it,
It's
right?
rather, I'd say, like, just first see, one thing I'd suggest, just like go through our link scheme cycle, right? And we have like few examples of what links we consider that are violating our guidelines. Just extrapolate that to your disavow file and look at what kind of links are not your disavow file, sorry, to the links to your site section. Just extrapolate that and check for what kind of links that you're doubtful of whether they're natural or like unnatural. And like for the sketchy links, just post them in the forum, and I'm sure like the people will comment on it and say.
I've, I've done, like, things from my end, like, I'm waiting for Google to process it. As Syed said, like, it's not a manual process.
Yeah, it'll take some time. Yes.
It's almost been a month, dude. Come on.
Okay, frankly, month may be a very small period. If you think about the amount of web pages, websites we're dealing with, like there are like more than 60 trillion pages on the web, right?
I don't deny the fact that special request has to be processed sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think there are too many special requests actually for us to even think about it.
Yeah, so should I wait for a month or two again, like, to see the effect?
Yes, I think the only thing we can suggest or we can do about is like wait and work towards it, right? When you're producing good quality content, why do you think Google would not want to rank that good quality content? If you're not doing that, then it is also Google that is missing out on that, right? Because if you have good quality content, users would definitely benefit from it and would definitely like to show that in the sources list.
Sayed, I've did a lot of research on the web. I can name you loads of sites, like, to whom Google is ranking on top.
Yeah, I
They
think
have a
if at all you're
maximum,
seeing some kind of spam, then
one
you
word
should.
content, like, maximum one line content, or hardly 2 lines, ranking on top.
Right, so if at all you're
I
seeing some
can
kind of
name a
spam,
big domains. I can name big domains. I can name a big domains. Trust me on it.
right. If you're seeing any kind of spam, please do report using our spam report tool, right? Yeah, so that is the option you have.
Fair enough.
Okay, I
No,
think
no,
there are a
I'll
lot of questions
definitely.
in the
Q.
Q&A, actually.
So let's actually just go like that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rocky.
Thank you.
All right. Gopal asks, what is the importance of CSS validation errors in SEO, especially for responsive website? So I'd say I'm not sure like if we really even bother with validation.
CSS validation, I don't think that's a
Yeah.
concern unless you don't have broken CSS. That should be fine, I think.
Yeah, I don't think like you should worry about that. Rather, like just look at just look at from a user's perspective on like how the site is appearing to him, or if there's any say if a CSS that you have written is blocking your site from loading fast enough or something like that. Like just look at those things and from a design perspective. But validation, I wouldn't really focus.
All contents को
Mahesh
all
asks.
content को remove किए बिना नहीं होगा.
Mahesh asks, is there any new way to get keyword ranking apart from
Social media marketing, content, on-site, and schema. Okay.
schema? I don't think you get.
Yeah, first of all, I think implementing schema on your website doesn't change anything except how your site appears in the search results. When I mean it doesn't change anything, I mean anything to do with crawling, indexing, or your ranking, right? So nothing changes. Google doesn't treat your website differently if you implement schema. It is only that how your website may appear in the search results that may change. And again, even that is like not guaranteed. And even for the sites for which we choose to show the rich snippets in the search results, it may not happen all the time for all users, right? Only when algorithms think fit to show the extra information in the search results about that website for a given user and based on other factors, only then we will show that. And
yeah, apart from that, like things you have suggested are pretty much the main factors of getting good ranking. Social media marketing,
yeah,
content especially, like content is pretty much the big thing.
Yeah, but one thing I would like to point out is like if you're considering social media as a direct factor that Google considers to rank your website, that is actually not true, right? So it may have maybe indirect impact. Like if you really grow awareness about your business, a lot of people start talking about your business, start linking to your web pages, etc., etc. Then that may be seen as a positive sign of and reputation for your business, and that may be considered as one of the things, but it will not have a direct impact.
Shankar asks, suppose we're working on a website which is previously managed by someone and they don't provide us listing credentials to the previous Google listings. Ownership transfer process says it needs to be authorized. So the first things first, in Webmaster Tools, if you remove the token through which it was verified, then like the verification will be removed. It will take some time since we need to go and crawl and see if the token has been removed, so that like we'll identify that this person no longer owns that. Sorry, this person can no longer be a verified owner of this website. And from your side, you can always add a new token either via meta tags or HTML files or DNS verification, and you can always buy it separately by yourself, since like the site is with you. Right?
And actually, once you become an owner of a website, that means you add and verify that website in your Webmaster Tools account. You can actually manage other users as well, meaning you can actually remove other users, right? So that is another thing you can do.
But I don't think you can remove owners, full owners.
Yeah.
So for owners to be removed, you need to remove the verification tag, token, sorry, whichever was used. So if it was a meta tag or HTML file or via a DNS TXT code. So you can get the TXT code by just typing dig website and TXT in your terminal, dig. Right, Avinash asks, my site's images don't show up in Google image search. I've optimized and it's not blocked by robots. Any other reasons? Without like actively looking, we can't really say, but you can. Did you do a site search for those images? Those image URLs, because they could still be indexed, but they're just probably not ranking. And also, if just make sure. So one other thing, the images need to have some sort of a landing page. If it's just a folder with images, then they will probably not be indexed. Each image should be on some sort of a landing page. It needs to have its own unique URL. So make sure it has a landing page. Otherwise, it may not be indexed. It's the same with videos also. Each video needs to have its own unique URL and a landing page, along with. Yes. 1 second. I just have a quick question. Each
Hello.
image.
Sorry.
But 1 second, Tausif, I'll just answer this question. Each image needs to have its own landing page, so that's the only way it can be indexed. And for Avinash, just make sure you check if the images are actually indexed by doing a site search, and then check if each image has a landing page of its own. Yes, Tausif, go ahead.
Yeah, this is just regarding the question, the answer you just said about it. This is suppose in an in an e-commerce world, right? When we have images, when we click on an image and the image comes in a light box, right?
Yeah.
A bigger image comes in a light box.
Yeah.
So will that image needs to have a separate landing page or
No, it's still on a particular product, right? That image is still is there on a particular product. That's the landing page.
okay, so okay, I got it. Okay, and I have one more question regarding the modern frameworks, right? And this is regarding suppose we have like visibility classes or something like that. So suppose if I use this visibility classes or some like hide to show something or to hide something, so will that manipulate any of the Google algorithms or something like that?
Okay, so first things first, if you
So you have to come out with the number. You don't know the number. But your PU is asking for the number. Now you have to make an intelligence. Just write that down. How you are doing.
Hello?
Yeah, hey
sorry,
guys.
sorry.
Sorry, we think we got dropped off somehow.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying there is, if you visit our developer website and go to the Webmaster section, you will see the exact snippet of code that you need to put in. You will basically have to use organization as your entity type, and then there is a property for logo that you can add. It's a pretty, like, you just need to add like 3-4 lines of code and basically modify the existing division or whatever where you have the logo, and I think you will be set. Well, one thing to remember again is, like, we do not guarantee that we will reflect everything that the markup that you would add to your web pages, right? So it may appear, it may not appear. It depends on a lot of factors. Then.
Tosif, like, did you get the answer for the previous question?
No, I didn't got the answer for that.
Okay, so you were basically saying that.
Okay, what was your question again, Tosi?
Sorry about that.
No issues. Actually, I was asking, suppose if we use modern frameworks, right? Like Foundation or
Oh, yeah,
Bootstrap.
got it. So you're basically asking about if you had a design decision and hid some content from the users, but Googlebot can see it. Is that an issue?
Yeah, like suppose if I use the visibility classes, or suppose if
Yeah.
I add a div and if I show a div, right? And for the other devices, like suppose if I show a div for a mobile device and I hide a div for a desktop, or do vice versa. So will it violate Google guidelines?
So as long as the content is not hidden from users, it shouldn't, it won't, it's not a violation.
Okay, but the question is like suppose for a desktop users I have to show some content, and for mobile users I don't have to show all the content to but this is like just for the user experience. It is not for something to uh, basically manipulate Google
Yeah,
rankings or
I
something
understand
like
totally. So what happens is if you want, so first things first, in responsive web design, you need to have the same content on both desktop and mobile, right? If you
that.
want different content or you want to just show only a little bit of content, there are other options like dynamic serving and separate site. But if you want responsive web design, you generally have to show all the content. And if you feel you have to hide some information because it's not very relevant on the mobile site or as a design decision, rather than like completely hiding it, I'd rather say just make that available via drop down and load that after the main information on your say the above the fold content is loading. After that, make sure this other content loads and make sure it is available for the users to see either via drop down or like when they sort of click it, it just pops down and they can see the information. But completely hiding it, so basically like you're showing it on desktop but on mobile they can't see it on the same page, they can't see that information in any way, that's actually a violation.
Okay, okay.
Right, like what you can do is the information you want to show, like say just for the above the fold content, you can inline css just for that part so that that loads very quickly, and you can load any scripts or whatever after that, so like at least the user will see the information he needs to see immediately first, and then the other information will load slowly after some time. This will actually result in a faster site, and you give good user experience.
Okay,
Right.
thanks.
No problem. We have a question around. We just take. Amit Roy asks, does Google Knowledge Graph derive any information from Google Plus and Twitter activity? So we do take some pages from Google Plus to show if there are any verified pages for, and if there are any logo markups of some sort, and if people are searching for that particular brand, we generally show that information in Knowledge Graph. But Twitter, I don't think we have any information for. And Vaibhav asks how Google mobile smartphone and feature phone bots work. Does Google serve only the smartphone content to smartphone users and feature phone to sorry feature? So basically, you're asking if just the smartphone bot crawl is information is served to smartphone users and feature phone content is served to feature phone users. So feature phones can not actually see the content that you can see on desktop and smartphones, so they can't access HTML, they can't render HTML pages. They have their special WAP or CHTML pages that only those pages they can be seen under feature phones. So they have a separate index for them. For smartphones, if we have a smartphone optimized website, we'll try and give links to smartphone optimized pages via Google Mobile Search. But if there are no smartphone optimized pages, then we'll probably just link to the desktop version. So we do try and provide like smartphone optimized pages whenever possible, but if not, we'll at least serve the desktop version of the page. Pavle asks, my site suddenly started to drop in rankings twice 2 weeks ago. No manual actions, no spammy methods, content is unique. What might be the reason? Honestly, we don't have enough time to like take a look at each and individual website. So I'd suggest really posting this in the forum. So if you have any specific question about like any part of the site, then maybe we can answer that better. Yeah, sorry about that. Sojan asks, what is the right way to mark up the search of my site so that it will show up with site links leading to my site's search result page instead of mysite.com.
Yeah, okay, so first of all, okay, again, this is a bit technical, so you will have to refer to the developers or google.com in that the webmaster section. we have described everything there basically. So you also have snippets of code that you can actually copy to your website and change it, modify it accordingly. But one thing to remember is that you will have to add this markup to your homepage and make sure that your homepage is the canonical URL, not the duplicate version. So you add this markup to your homepage, and another important thing to make sure is that you actually have a internal search engine on your website, which allows users to search for content within your website, right? So you will have to have a search engine within your website. If you don't have, then you can actually use the Google Custom Search, the free version. There is also a paid version. So you can use one of those, or if at all you have a search engine for your website, well and good. And then, of course, there are some technical aspects to it. You will have to mention, say, for example, the URL of the search page, and then you will have to, in the curly braces, you will have to define as like a placeholder for the query, and then query input name should match. There are some aspects to it. I think discussing it like this will not make it very clear to you. I would suggest you to go back to the developers and then check that out. It's actually not very difficult to do, kind of easy.
Ramesh, you have a question?
Yeah, yeah. I have a simple question. This side links which you just asked. Where we
Sorry,
should put
your
this?
voice is breaking. Sorry.
Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is like, Sayyid, I mean, if that is related to the side link search box. So I just wanted to ask, where should I place this particular markup under this head tag, or whether should I place it under the body tag? So
Yeah, very frankly, I don't see a difference between placing in your either your head and body. Remember anything reading specifically about this, right? And usually this type of things go in the head section, as you may know, in HTML, right? Yeah. So, but still, I think if you refer to the document, if there is anything, I don't remember reading anything to that effect.
it's not mentioned in that document. So that is why I'm asking. I'm like, where to place it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it doesn't matter a lot, right? So it depends on how you want to structure your website. But basically, these kind of the extra information that surrounds you call the meta information that goes in the head section, right? So it is best to place it there.
We'll actually take a couple more questions and before we closing out because we're out of time. So we'll take Rajesh's question. We've got notification from Google about spammy structured markup. Does this affect my current keyword ranking? So keyword ranking won't be. So ranking is generally not affected by markup. So it's not affected in a positive or a negative manner. So that shouldn't be a concern. But like if you are trying to mark up your like you want to mark up your site for either to show rich snippets in search results, then this is an issue, and you may not be we may not be showing your markup in search results. So it could even be some violation, like you're hiding the markup from where like users can't see but Googlebot can see. That is one example violation. So I'd say like try and fix that, but it won't affect your search ranking. It won't affect your rank in the search results, but it will affect the look of your search result. So if you want some certain information to be showing in the search result, it won't.
So I think if you have identified the violation that was happening, you can actually fix it and file for a reconsideration request as well.
Shankar asked, I guess my previous question was interpreted incorrectly. The query was for Google local business listings that we verified for physical thing. How can we unverify that listing from the masters?
Okay, so you're talking about Google local business listings, right? So I think your question was, this website was being managed by someone else, or this list, you take control over of this, right? So frankly, I don't think we know anything about business listings in local search. So I would suggest you to go to support.google.com. There you will find some resources, and I'm sure these kind of things will be mentioned in the help center they have, or they will also have a forum, so probably you can pose this question there.
We're out of time, so maybe we take one last question.
Can you please take up my question that is regarding for the agent?
Okay, how to crawl Ajax content on your
No,
page?
sorry, I think.
Ramesh?
Sorry, Ramesh, you have some question?
Yeah, I think it's Ramesh's question.
Asking the same one, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
how to crawl Ajax content on your page? We have reviews and Q&A section in Ajax. So Ajax you can use
read somewhere, you should be able to hopefully implement this.
like one last question, Amit Roy's. Do we need to include additional information in data highlighter tool on Webmaster Tools, even if the information is not present on a particular page?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I didn't get your answer. I mean, there was a disconnection, so I'm not able to hear that answer.
Okay, Ramesh, so basically we were suggesting you to go to the developers website, developers.google.com, and the webmaster section, because there are a lot of technical things that you'll have to read through to implement this. It's not like something we can just talk about here and explain.
Yeah, the basic idea is to use HTML snapshots.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So Amit Rao asks, do we need to include additional information in the data highlighter tool and Webmaster Tools, even if the information is not present on a particular page? For example, phone may not be present on a particular page, and when we use data highlighter is okay.
We're very sorry, we got disconnected again.
Yeah, there's some problem. Anyways, so the question was, should you include or mark up data that is actually not present on the page, right? That is actually against our rich snippets guidelines. So that is called misleading snippets, say for example. So if you don't have something on your pages, please do not mark that up. You're not required to mark that up, right? Because as I said, we would want to reflect that in our search results pages, and when users see that on the search results page, they would expect to see that same information when they click through as well, right? And if it is not present on the page, that is very bad user experience. So please do not mark up anything that is not present on the pages.
So, just to add on to this thing, I just wanted to know, we are just doing this sale event markup thing. So they ask us basically for this address thing, but we are doing this online sale. So do we have to specify that our physical location on that one, or that is something else has to be there?
I'm sorry, your voice is not very clear, Ramesh. So I just may figure out that you're talking about address.
Yes, address in markups basically. So we are doing this sale event under this markup thing. So we have also tested this thing under this event markup tester tool. So every tag was correct. Basically, the syntax and everything was fine. It just is pointing that the address is required for that particular event. So just wanted to ask, like under this address thing, whether we should apply this thing or physical address thing, or we should just leave it as is.
So I'm guessing you're talking about the event, the venue of the event, right?
Yes. The thing is, we're doing this event online, not the offline kind of thing. So for doing this online thing, so do we have to specify the address of that location? We're not doing this anywhere, apart from that online space.
Okay, so as far as I know, right now we support events in physical locations. I'm not really aware if you're yet supporting events in like online webinars and things like that and providing that as a snippet, right? So if you're seeing a message that a physical address is required, that means that we are actually supporting the events that are happening at physical locations and not the online events yet.
Uh, One last question. Another site had a site-wide footer link towards us, which led to our site having 3,000 links from them. After they removed them, we also used disabove. Our site ranking dropped significantly. Why is removing bad links back for ranking? I think this question sort of answers itself.
So yeah, there are some backlinks and you disavowed those links. So whatever link juice or whatever we call it, you were getting for those links is you're no more getting that.
So it's basically if the footer links are relevant and say if you're simply speaking, if your company is ABC and you're getting footer links from like some 3,000 from a single site, some 3,000 footer links saying developed by ABC, that shouldn't be a huge issue because it's your name and like it's your site and your sorry, it's the name of your brand, right? That's totally fine. But on the other hand, if it's sort of using keywords to abuse the Google's ranking for certain search queries, say web design in Scotland or something like that. So that would be like concerning because like you're trying to rank sending 3,000 links about web design in Scotland from like a single site to another site. So that's pretty sketchy, right? So there we can see a clear manipulation of Google's search ranking. So it's not why is removing bad links bad for ranking. It's basically if we see that there's some links that are trying to manipulate the search rankings, then we'll try and take action on them.
Here, for example, let's take an example of the Amazon. So Amazon is right now linking all of their basically country-specific domains. So don't you think you are actually passing that page rank from that more main domain global site to their basically all of the local websites? For example, Amazon India, they are getting that kind of page rank value from those highly trustable kind of website. So it is kind of advantage for the Amazon to having trustable links from other network websites. So that will give them additional benefit in ranking.
Okay, so Ramesh, I think your question is, I'm sorry, your voice is like really breaking, so I'll just paraphrase your question. Let me know if I'm right. So you're basically saying if there is an international domain like Amazon.com with high reputation, and if they have local versions of websites like Amazon.in, then, and if they have cross-linking these domains, would the benefit flow between these websites? Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so as Ashish mentioned, right, if see, for example, if the nature of these links is like highly commercial, and if we see that they are not kind of organic links, then they are very suspective, right? So we wouldn't want inorganic activity. However, see, we do not refrain or restrict people from interlinking their businesses or their domains and things like that. Those are their properties; they are free to link, right? But somewhere I think there needs to be a balance, and if you're trying to manipulate that linking, like using that linking to manipulate some kind of search engine ranking and benefit your websites with like commercial anchors and things like that, then that may be problematic. And by the way, talking specifically about Amazon.com, first of all, page rank is like just one of the like hundreds of factors we use, like at least 200 plus factors that we use.
But the kind of backlinks Amazon itself is getting, like that is a huge number. So it might be possibility that I am passing my value to my network sites basically. So it might be helpful for them as well.
No, be it any website, be it a small website, be it a big website, right? So PageRank is just one factor, right? If the other like close to 200 factors are like against your website and your PageRank is like really high, that doesn't matter. We may still not rank your website anywhere, like maybe even on 10th page, right? So PageRank is just one of the factors, right? So I think you need not worry so much about it. Yeah, and
Correct.
yeah, unless you're keeping this linking very organic and natural, right? As and when required, if you see some benefit that you can give to users by linking this, right? So, for example, you have an e-commerce website, a local website, and things like that. Some product is only locally available. People are searching for that product on your international domain. You're linking to this local domain page and saying that, okay, this product is available there only. This is a useful link, right? So, although you may have anchor text and things like that about with that product name, etc., this is a useful link. So, unless it is like not organic and suspicious, I don't think there should be any problem.
All right, guys, we are way over time, so thank you guys for attending the event.
Yeah,
So,
thank you very much, and hope to see you again very soon. Hope you enjoyed.
see you.
Bye bye.